now.
Hello again, dear listeners and viewers of Deep Divers. Today is a special day since, as you can see, our dynamic duo has morphed into a dynamic trio today. So we have a special guest, and it's not even a surprise because webcams are on and everything. So, first, for newcomers, newbies, noobs, I am Marc, speaking to you from Belgium at the moment. And I am with my delightful co-host, Natalie, speaking to you from the south of Germany. Hi, Natalie.
Hi, everybody.
And our special guest today is our good friend, Paul, speaking to you, well, not from Norway anymore, but from the
From
United
England.
Kingdom, and more specifically England, and even more specifically Oxfordshire at the moment.
That's right.
Welcome, Paul.
Thank you.
So, the topic of the day, as you can read from the title of this episode, is Humanity Pushes Back. And I feel like saying that it's high time humanity would do so. I would even go as far as saying that this is, in fact, overdue. At least that's how I feel, or how I feel about it. Apparently, I'm not the only one, judging by the approving nods that I'm getting across my screen. So, we are currently finding ourselves as humanity in a situation where we are being put under enormous pressure. And this is in fact not entirely new, because we have been in a pressure cooker for a few millennia now, at the very least. And let's just say that if we have been put in a kind of invisible open air prison, our wardens have put a lot of effort into locking us down in every way possible. And so imprisonment can also be viewed, of course, as an attack. And that attack has been also as multi-pronged as can be. So they have literally been coming at us from every possible and sometimes impossible angle. So it's been very severe. It's been extremely severe. What we are witnessing now feels to me, because I was born in the second half of the 20th century, so there are many things I have not been experiencing, at least as Marc. As Marc, there are many forms of attacks I have not been experiencing in this lifetime. So this feels kind of extreme to me. It feels extreme, and it feels like it is unfolding at an extremely quick pace. And so it is that feeling of a ramping up of the imposition at exponential speed. And so the feeling of pressure is also getting extreme as a consequence of that. Now, since, as I said, we've been under attack for quite a long time, as a consequence of that, and we have discussed that in previous episodes, there's been a lot of trauma around, an awful lot of trauma going on, because everything in the social matrix and even beyond the social matrix seems to have been designed to inflict trauma on the human being from birthday, and even before, even from pregnancy on. And the purpose is, of course, to get us into a situation where our trauma is conducive to mind control. So it also generates some form of energetic food for the entities that have that sort of candy on their diet, of course. But from a control point of view, a social control point of view, trauma is one of the things that makes us especially receptive to mind control. And so if you take that into account, and as we also discussed in previous episodes, if you take the phenomenon that psychologists call the Stockholm Syndrome into account, you can understand the absolutely staggering attitudes that humanity is displaying at the moment more easily. And yet, I'm going to speak for myself here. I often find myself having a response to people's behaviors and attitudes at the moment, which is a response of great disappointment at the apparent ease with which humanity seems to have capitulated without a fight and seems to accept blindly absolutely everything that is shoved down its throat. And as you are, I suppose, I am observing on a daily basis how people are submitting, how they are surrendering, and how they don't dare do anything to resist demands that are so ridiculous, so absurd, so in your face, that you would believe that people wouldn't take them, wouldn't possibly be able to take them. Now, it is very difficult for me not to get judgmental in this situation, to be honest, and not to label what I'm seeing cowardice. If I think, for instance, of all the people who are active in commerce, the shop owners and the people who work in shops, how they have accepted to become police auxiliaries and check whether people are respecting the mandate to wear a mask in their shop, even though they really don't feel like doing it, just because they are afraid of getting fined, and don't seem to realize that they have possibilities for legal action that are open to them, and that they could, how would I say, that they could, what's the word for that? Form an alliance, so to speak, that they could form groups that would go into collective civil disobedience. And I'm going, okay, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, because I know one example where that has actually happened recently. There's been a city in Argentina that is a rather big city, where the mayor, like so many other mayors, went totally bonkers and became obsessed obsessed with the coronavirus and went on a big power trip. And at some point decreed that all shops, whatever their nature, whether they be restaurants or cafes, bars, nightclubs, whatever, had to close by 10 o'clock. Because it is a well-known fact that the virus becomes much more aggressive after 10 o'clock.
It's ridiculous.
So it's proven, there are studies, I'm telling you. So, and experts say they come on television, so we know it's true. No, what happens is that this good gentleman announced the news and made a mistake. He said, 1 week from now, this will be enforced. And what happened during that week is that every single bar, restaurant, cafe, nightclub owner networked with one another. And when the fatal day came, they all stayed open.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
They all stayed open. So, because of course, the mayor didn't have the necessary force to go to all these places and lock them down, he rather pathetically announced that the ban had been lifted. Now, this seems extraordinary, but it shouldn't.
Yeah, it shouldn't. But you said just out of fear. But fear is not just. It is everything that is leading people if they feel they are alone. If people think they are on their own, this is the key, I feel, in this. Because trauma is, everybody who has been traumatized will be searching for safety. This is their first response. And the whole situation where everybody is put under constant pressure and fear, people have not been able to really think clearly, or so they have been just totally under re-traumatization constantly, and they have not been able to think. And those who started to think and just to speak up, not even do something else, but just to speak up, and I can speak out of own experience, there have been really experienced a huge pushback from the surrounding, because the government doesn't need to have you under constant surveillance, what they do anyway, but they don't even have to, because all of your nice family members, neighbors, co-workers, they all make sure you are feeling you are the only one, what is not the case at all. There are millions and millions and millions of people who are now starting to wake up. It's like the frog in the boiling water. As you said, the pressure went stronger and stronger over time, and people didn't realize it. But now is a point where one or the other frog is realizing, I'm getting boiled alive, and tries to jump out of the cooking pot. And I feel it is really important we bring out this message that there are things people can do and that they don't have to obey.
Yeah, so yesterday is an example of me and Carrie going into a farm shop. And in the farm shop, immediately the matatron, or the female boss, or the wife of the husband there, she said, do you have a mask? You should have a mask on. And I said, no, we are exempt. And then she said, are you really? And then I said, yes, we are exempt, really. And then we just walked into the next room. And of course she couldn't do anything. She was, of course, curious. Her power trip was challenged. But then we went into the neighboring room and finished most of what we were going to do. and then her husband was standing there when we wanted to when we wanted to pay, and I mean, both of us saw that his eyes were just a big excuse of how she behaved. We could see it. He didn't say anything, of course, but we could see it.
Yeah.
He was the most, and he didn't have a mask. Maybe he had this shield in front. He didn't have a mask.
The aquarium shield.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you have your surveillance in your own bedroom, what this is something that makes it really, really difficult for people to really express how they feel. And so he couldn't say, "I'm sorry, actually, I don't care, please don't wear a mask, be free. I'm happy you are shopping in my shop," because this is, people are afraid to lose their business.
Yeah, they are.
What they are not aware of, I'm not going to have a haircut at the moment. I'm not doing all kinds of stuff at the moment. I don't spend my money in all of those shops where I feel uncomfortable. I'm not doing that. And people are not aware that as they are obeying to the government, that they are actually digging the grave that they are fearing, because I will not spend my money there. It's as easy as that. Yeah.
And many people feel the same way.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't tried to investigate that, but I'm pretty sure that many shops are staying empty just because people don't feel like going. Many people don't feel like going at the moment.
I have two other examples of how people have behaved in shops, if you want to hear.
Yeah, of course.
Some weeks ago, we went into a daily shop, like to buy bread and so on to feed the swans at Stratford. And then the guy said, then we were much more reactive because it was in the beginning of it. So, and then he said, you should have mask on and you should sanitize your hands. No, we're not going to do that. And then he said, then you have to go out of the shop. And we put our things on the floor and we said, then you have to put the things back yourself and we are never coming back.
Good on you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Before you tell us about the other case, I would really like to ask you, how do you feel when you are in these situations?
And now it's a kind of curiosity and kind of, I enjoy it actually, because now I enjoy it. In the beginning, I reacted very strongly and I was kind of, in a way, repressed angry, because it was the start of it and I was kind of getting used to using my voice, which I haven't been used to. I have been more in the Stockholm syndrome thing, like not really wanting to be seen, to be too visible. So, and of course then in the beginning I was quite, I was not very angry, but I really asserted myself, like in that example. Now I have, for example, we went to this farm shop yesterday because we really wanted to see if there was as crazy as the first time. Yeah, and she wasn't as crazy as the first time because she accepted immediately. But yeah, so it's more curiosity and not exactly pleasure, because it's not a good situation anyway.
No, it isn't.
It's still, I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of quite happy to challenge.
That's actually really important that you share this. And I have to tell people, Paul used to be much more quiet, and I really enjoy Paul really coming out of himself and being so brave. And this is really a good example that someone who feels, no, I'm too shy for doing this, and I'm not the type of speaking up, that you can overcome this. Paul is perfect example for that.
And I also had strong fear of authorities.
Wow.
I think from other lives as well. So
Yeah.
I'm being shut down before.
From what? from?
I had a strong fear of authorities
Yes. And what
because
did you say
of
afterwards?
also in other lives being shut down.
Mm.
Yeah, like possibly being a pope, and then well, maybe this is a bit special, but then siding with the with I don't know always to say it in English, but I became a martyr.
Mm.
As and then that was a kind of shutting down, because then of course it was a lot of black magic used.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also as a king, and a lot of things happened in that incarnation as well. So and good things happened as well. I think even with Carrie we were together. So yeah, so there is reasons why I have been so frightened of speaking out.
Certainly, like the vast majority of people are.
Yeah.
And I went to Brussels yesterday because I went to visit my mother, who lives in the periphery of Brussels, and I wanted to go to a shop in the city. So we went there, and as we were crossing Brussels, where the obligation of having masks in open air is in force, I didn't count people, but I would say at the very, very least 90% of the people were wearing their masks.
Yeah.
And that's a really, really conservative estimation.
Exactly.
It was probably more. So this shows you how insanely scared of authority people are.
Yeah.
Because I believe most people have to realize that maybe they convince themselves otherwise to justify their own submissiveness. But most people at some level have to realize that this is utterly absurd.
They don't. They really, the mind has way to work.
Yeah.
So they just focus on, yeah, and on television and the newspaper, everybody is saying it is way too dangerous and I don't want to be the person. And of course, I don't want to be fined. And so they are convincing themselves and putting everything else that would be common sense, they totally put it aside. It's not,
No.
It simply disappears for them.
Yeah, it's also like my neighbor in Norway. I said that to him many times, that this whole thing is a great lie. And also his wife, which was much more listening to me at times, she said, in the end, she said, I believe in COVID. I believe in COVID-19.
Wow.
So just to...
That's a very interesting statement.
Yeah,
because it is revealing that it is in fact an article of faith.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a good believer. I believe in COVID-19.
Yeah, exactly. So she was a good woman.
Yeah.
Believing.
Yeah, and most are good people, and belief is one of the big issues, because people want to believe that the authorities, for example, have their best interest at heart. And they want to believe that the mass media, they cannot all lie. And they want to believe that they themselves are good citizens. They don't want to believe that they are cowards, and that they are crawling on the ground like a worm, yeah, and that they, and as the narrative has been changed, what is a big topic here in Germany, nobody wants to be a far right. So now everybody who is speaking up against the muscle is, of course, named a conspiracy theorist and far right person. What is not the case at all, because people from all walks of life and all political ideologies realize something isn't right. So they don't want to be put into the same box with the far right people. So they don't dare to speak up. And we had just last weekend, we had a huge demonstration in Berlin, a huge protest.
May I interrupt you just for a moment, Natalie? I'm sorry to interrupt your flow, but I really want to give these demonstrations the thunder they deserve,
Okay.
so to speak.
Okay.
So before we introduce that, I just want to emphasize something you just said, that do we realize how incredibly easy it is to invert people's perception when people who fight for freedom and stand up to authority are labeled far right?
Yeah.
What kind of sense does that mean? That people who are standing up to authority and defending freedom would be far right? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, but they really have the 1984 double thing, double speak, yeah, that everything is kind of turned upside down, topsy-turvy, and so they believe that, and yeah, there has been an incident happening at that demonstration, and then voices occurring afterwards that had to do with this switch, what I wanted to address now, because yeah, so keep on with your flow. I will come back to that point, how this flip has been taking place. Yeah.
Okay. So introducing now these really amazing demonstrations, and Germany has become the center of the world in terms of visible resistance, because there is quite resistance in many countries, you know, that are not as caught up in the narrative as the West is, even though it's not just in the West, it just varies from one country to the other. Apparently the harshest lockdown has taken place in Peru, of all places.
Wow.
Harshest and longest lockdown has taken place in Peru for whatever reason.
Yeah, because in the jungle you always have to keep your distance. Yeah, and your muscle. Yeah.
It's mostly mountains in Peru.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
But you're right that there is a little bit of the Amazon forest.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I always assume that people don't know what I know. So, so but Germany, very, very fascinating to observe what's going on in Germany at the moment, because usually we rely on France for that kind of, how would I call it, from that kind of groundswell, you know, for that kind of resistance movement. But now it is Germany that is putting up a fight. And we have seen huge demonstrations that we haven't seen anywhere else, and that have started earlier than anywhere else in the world. And during the holiday period, on top of it. So since you are the best placed, I would say, but they say that no one is a prophet in their own country, but maybe we're trying to make that same lie today by asking you, Natalie, to explain to us what's been going on. How did these huge gatherings happen? And if you have any insight into the how, the why, the who, whatever, please share with us now.
I have to say I was really, really astonished, because the Germans, I think they are really famous for not speaking up and to obey to the authorities. We are really famous for that, or infamous, yeah. There might lie one answer, to this question because we have experienced the results of that. We have really, everybody who is born in Germany after World War II has kind of shame for being German. It is really deeply ingrained into us, and people are really traumatized, even if not having lived there, but just from all of the stories you were hearing and from your ancestry. And when people told you, yeah, we were afraid to speak up. And that might be a reason why now the frog is feeling a little bit earlier than the others that they are actually in some boiling water. And the Berlin, where the demonstration, the huge demonstration, have been taking place, is has been a little island surrounded by the communistic part of Germany. So they have been not just under Nazi pressure, but they have then also been under dictatorship of a socialistic party since until 1989, actually. So many people have experienced to be under total oppression for so long. And that might be, I think the Germans are a little bit of schizophrenic because on one level, they know, okay, I better stay silent. But then comes the point where they think, I'm not having it anymore. And suddenly, yeah, it took me by surprise. I really have to say that. And it is, but also there is kind of a mind split really taking place because now they just had to put out the narrative. It's just the far right who did that. And this is now a point that I see as really a little bit crucial point we are now at the moment, because last week, and when this huge demonstration, the second huge demonstration took place, there was an incident where people with the old flags were storming towards the House of Parliament. Yeah, and it's been really strange how this incident took place. It was a single woman going to a microphone and saying, "We have won," whoever we is, and Trump is in the House of Parliament right now. And so this mob of people with those flags who are supposedly far right have been running towards this place where no police was, and then suddenly police showed up. And it was a huge scandal that no police had protected this place. And actually, to me, it really seems like being staged.
Of course.
From everything I heard, because, yeah, and then we had, of course, public figures speaking up. And people who, yeah, there is, for example, one guy, he's known Sasha Lobo. He's an influencer on the more younger people in this country. And he said, you cannot walk in a demonstration, in a protest, you cannot protest together with the far right. So I am not allowed, from their point of view, this is how their mindset is working. You cannot go to a protest if there is anyone from the far right walking with you. And that is just insane. That is really just insane. But this is now the narrative. And now I'm really curious how this is going to unfold in the future. Yeah.
Well, my attempt at a prediction would be that many people will stay convinced, they will stay under that spell that it's just the far right, and so they really don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But that also over time, more people will end up realizing that it's baloney. Now, obviously, from what you have told us, this reeks of a psyops and a staged situation.
Yeah, totally.
Totally. Really, the absence of police protection and the agent provocateur, or provocateurs, most probably, because I wouldn't place a bet on who these people with the old flags actually were. We know that, yeah, tell us.
Actually, it's been kind of funny because normal people over social media have been sharing their experiences from this day. And actually, I enjoyed the way they described it, and there have been 2 points that I found remarkable. One is that they said, yeah, people have been really in a friendly, peaceful, good mood. And because of what a court had decided before, they didn't have to wear a muzzle, just keep distance and just simply walk. But then police was very, very angry. This is one crucial point. Police was very, very angry from the very beginning. And on some point, police stopped them. So they had been crowded together. And people started to feel uncomfortable because they have been pushed together and have been stopped. And then they have been accused for not wearing a muzzle. What wasn't their fault because they have been stuffed together. And this was one crucial point. And when they have been told, yeah, as they are not wearing a muzzle and not keeping social distance, what they couldn't. And so this was the first point of provocation to make people, they are now wrong, they behave wrong, but it wasn't their fault. And the second one was that this one woman, she was describing actually those people with those old flags. And she said, it's been funny because they seem totally relaxed. And actually they didn't look like far right. They had Rasta hair. That's not typical for a far right, not at all.
No, I wouldn't say so. So clearly these people had been hired.
Yeah.
They had been hired and they were paid
Yeah.
to actually play a role. Now, I just want to say a word to address that rationale of you can be associated with the far right. All right, let's suppose that some of these people are far right, which is probably the case because a certain proportion of the population is far right, inevitably. So if someone wants to shoot you and a far right person is moving in front of you to stop the shooter, are you going to say, no, 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 you're far right, I don't want to have anything to do with you?
Yeah, shoot me.
Yeah, shoot me, please. Don't pay attention to that evil, foul, far-right bastard. How is that an argument? How is that an argument, especially with the tiny, really tiny proportion of the vote that goes to the far right in Germany? How much is it, Natalie? Do you know?
No, I don't know because I don't pay that much attention because, yeah, I'm not a believer in votes.
You're such a miscreant.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, the last 2 times I haven't voted.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a regular voter before. I believed that I could do something by voting for the right party. And of course, I gave up that belief, and I don't want to sign the document, which is the voting thing. I mean, when you sign a vote, you actually accept whatever they implement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when they suddenly say something else than they said originally, then you have already accepted it because you have signed it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why we don't have democracy.
No.
Because democracy would be a system where you can revoke your representatives at any given moment if they don't give satisfaction. And you could also vote your rules and regulations directly through referendum whenever you want to. And you could also abrogate any law whenever you want to by referendum. So what we have is a representative system where some people are supposed to, well, if you pay attention to the word, they represent you.
Yeah.
Which means that they present a repackaged version of you.
Yeah, but actually they don't, because I just didn't have much options and choose one over the other. I didn't, but in this example it would be the case. And now this person can decide whatever they want, so they are not representing me.
No.
Not at all. Yeah.
No. Well, not in the way we traditionally assign to that word, anyways.
Yeah.
In another sense, yes, they are representing you. But in the traditional sense of being your representative, no, they're not. Of course not.
But now this is where we have to, where we really have an option now, because democracy, you don't wait that the powers to be, or the wannabe powers to be, hand over their power to you. Don't wait for that. But you can make your own decision. Where do you want to go shopping? Where do you spend your money? Where do you obey and where you are not obeying? This is actually how people just create democracy. If they start to really realize they are sovereign beings and they can make a difference, but therefore we have to realize we are not alone. And there are others, and everybody has the right to decide for themselves. And for me, this includes that everybody who wants to wear a muscle is free to do so. Everybody who wants to stay distant is allowed to do that. But as a democracy, then simply things would show themselves. Who wants to have a hug and who doesn't? Who wants to have a haircut and laugh with their coiffeur does it, and the others don't. And then you have a society that really represents people. What would be real democracy?
I totally agree with that. I believe that people should be free to wear a mask if they want to, even though it's a really bad idea on multiple levels. But I believe people should be allowed to harm themselves if that is their decision. That's how they're going to learn. And we are in a society in which in many ways you are not allowed to harm yourself, because it is the state's prerogative to forbid you to harm yourself.
And
because they do it.
And for them to harm you.
Yeah, of course. That's the how do you say that? It's the outer.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have the word, but it's the other side of the medal. You know.
Yes.
But in certain places, some authorities have started to try and thumb their nose at the New World Order. And so the president of Tanzania has forbidden people to wear masks. No, they go to the other side. And there is a county in Florida, I believe, where the sheriff has said people who are entering our premises are forbidden to wear masks.
Oh, that's genius in a way. Because it makes the whole thing more transparent, actually. And that's why I wanted to go a little bit back to the mask thing again.
Yeah, please do so.
Because they call it law. Also in this government thing about mask, they call it law, but it's actually mandatory law, which is something else than criminal law, and much different than common law. Common law I don't have so much insight into yet, but it is so mandatory law means is not enforced, is not made through parliament, through 3/4 of the politicians or whatever they need, or maybe they need even more to change the law, the real laws, the so-called real laws of the matrix.
Well, it seems to be the case in most countries, Fleming, sorry, Paul. It is certainly the case in Belgium. You know, the parliament had no say in these rules. They were first done through something that in Belgium is called special powers, which means that for a limited period of time, the parliament says to the government, do whatever you want, do whatever you need to do, and we'll ratify it, no questions asked.
Wow.
But they have kept doing that after that period was over.
Yeah.
And particularly the mask mandate they did after the period was over. It's just one minister. It's one minister who took a decree to impose this. And so it doesn't stand because they didn't respect the procedure they were supposed to respect. So it doesn't stand for that reason. It also doesn't stand because it is contradicting actual laws. That decree is contradicting actual laws.
Yes.
And the sanctions that they have associated with the decree, they don't stand either because they're not supposed to apply in that sort of case. They're only supposed to apply when, for instance, people resist government requisitions, or when government forbid people to move in certain areas and people don't respect that, then these sanctions apply, but certainly not for the wearing of masks or for contact tracing or whatever other weird shit. These sanctions are not supposed to apply, but that's what police, if police gives a damn, police uses to find people. So that is illegal as well.
That's illegal.
Yeah, it's totally illegal, and it's the same in many countries. You know, in France, I know there is an attorney who has put a PDF paper freely at people's disposal, and it is explained on the PDF paper why the fines are illegal. And so people who know about that, they print them and they give them to the police when confronted with the police. And very often the police people say, "Oh, thank you, so we won't give you a fine." We won't give you a fine.
Do you have is that in English or is it only in French?
That's in French. That's in French because it refers to French legislation.
Okay. But it might govern the same here in England.
No, because it's really technical. You know, it's really an attorney's approach, and so it's technical and it goes into some very specific points of local law. So that wouldn't apply in other countries. But it's either these guys are really, really sloppy, or in a state of panic, or they actually believe they need to give aware people the possibility to get away with infringing the mandates. So I don't know exactly which one it is. It might be a combination, I don't know. But
mixed bowl. Mixed bowl of fruits. So some might be actually wanting to make people, the possibility for people to opt out.
Yeah, it might be a possibility because we know that this is all planned and organized at a level that is higher than governments.
Definitely.
And it is possible that people at these higher levels are aware that they need to give some small measure of free will to people in order not to be completely against I'm going to call it, even though that's not a very good expression, the laws of the universe. You know, the way reality functions.
But that is actually quite interesting because after Germany has had those huge demonstrations, last week two things happened that have been quite interesting. The federal government has put pressure onto the states and the other local executive powers to make sure that people wear the masks and to make sure that people are fined who don't wear a mask, because it seems many local powers didn't actually go after those people and didn't fine them, or just maybe in extreme cases or something like that. And so they did push really big pressure onto them, because it seems the Germans don't obey as they should. And so they just, yeah, put on more pressure. And there's just one city in the eastern part of Germany, because they had too much of all of those authority in previous the last century here. And so they don't do it at the moment, but really the hierarchical model is really putting the pressure onto from the top to the down level of the powers to be. And so they feel they have to find people. And now there is another thing, because now school is starting again in Germany, and it is now said that not only do the poor kids have to wear this muscle in the classroom, but if they go out into the schoolyard, that what is under the free sky, they have to wear it, otherwise they can be fined. And that is really heartbreaking, I feel. And also, if you're waiting at a bus stop, what is under the open sky, you can be fined too. And it seems they are now putting pressure onto the local executive powers to really go after the people who don't do it.
Mm. Yeah, you know, that is indeed what is happening to children at the moment. I find it indeed heartbreaking. On the other hand, seeing the level of acceptance of people at this point, if things stay that way, I mean, if people are not able to wake up under the current circumstances, the only way to possibly wake them up is to make the situation even worse.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's to make it so absurd, so extreme, so ridiculous, so horrible that they won't have a choice. Because right now, people are really good at rationalizing, you know, like you were saying. They're really good at finding justifications to their submissiveness because they're not going to say it's because I don't dare say anything. So it's going to be, I do this to protect others. It's not because I'm a coward. I'm responsible. I'm a good member of the community. Now, if the situations become so stupid, it already is, but not enough, apparently. So maybe the only way to trigger a reaction is to go to the most extreme situation possible. And the question then becomes, when is it enough?
If people don't protect their children, then they are lost. This is the way I feel, because this is something that is actually quite, I don't know, on an instinctual level.
Yeah.
That you try to protect the ones who are vulnerable, what should have been the case already with the old people back then, but now really not protecting the little ones, this is something, okay, if people don't do that, they are really lost. That is what I believe. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And also, I would like us to maybe inspire people to find out on a local level. I didn't do that, I have to admit, but people may find out on a local level what is actually the law, and maybe send this out into the public, what they can do to really disobey. What are their legal actions they could take? And it is a double-edged sword, as you can really lose yourself and put a lot of energy, time, and money in fighting the system. And I don't believe into that, that you really should go and fight the system, because you can really lose yourself in that way. But it's a fine line to disobey and say, okay, the law is just giving me an exemption, for example, because of health issues. And many people could actually say they have an exemption because it is not healthy, and many people have asthma, I don't know what else, yeah. Or PTSD, for example, so that they can use the law, and turn it around and say, okay, I have an exemption. And I believe Paul has something like that for England. Do you know what people can do, for example?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's many points which is listed up in the document, from the so-called document from the government, which is like children under the age of 11 are not recommended to wear a face mask. And people who cannot put on, wear, or remove a face covering because of physical and mental illness or impairment or disability. And also if you feel extremely, let's say here, yeah, where putting on, wearing, and removing a face covering will cause you severe distress. That is a personal, what is it called? Actually, what is it called in English? Definition of what is this. So it is actually everybody have the right to say no.
Yeah, you know, okay, please go on, Paul. Go on.
Yeah, and then if you need it for lip reading, clear sound or facial expressions to communicate, etc., to avoid harm or injury, or the risk of harm or injury to yourself or others. When you know about what face masks is, actually everybody's making harm to themselves and even to others by this covering themselves up.
Yeah. In Belgium, that minister decree, you know, only it says that it is only people who have a medical certificate of exemption that can be allowed to bypass the mandate.
This is probably a lie.
Well, actually, well, that decree is not valid anyways. You know, it is not valid. But for people who try to do that, it's almost impossible, because the doctors, they're put under pressure by their associations and their orders, as that is called, their orders of medical doctors, not to do this. So it doesn't mind if you, it doesn't even matter if you have a condition, and a serious condition related with respiratory problems. The overwhelming majority of doctors are going to be very reluctant to give a certificate to you. And okay, I'm going to go into that development later, but what I'm doing personally in the areas where you have to put on a mask on the streets, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. They can fine me if they want. I won't pay the fine. I will ask to be heard in court. And I have prepared papers on which I have listed all the reasons why, including the legal reasons why I refuse to wear a mask. You know, and if I come across policemen, I'm happy to hand them the little paper.
Exactly.
Should that happen?
Yeah.
So that's my approach. I find it much more tricky in shops because there is a wide variety of attitudes in shops. It depends who you're confronted with. And I'm not really in the mood for getting confrontational with shop people in, how would I say that? In a really intense way, because I tend to be a non-confrontational type. So I'm not a big fan of these discussions, you know, especially when you see the robotic look in the other person's eyes and that you seem to talk to a wall. But I saw a video recently of a person in France who didn't mind getting confrontational. So he really wanted to stand up. And so he worked in a supermarket, a Lidl, I believe, or now Aldi, without a mask. And then when he arrived at the cashier's space, he was denied. He was denied his errands. He was told, no, we won't sell to you. No, we won't accept you. And so he was filming the whole thing on his phone. And he said, you have to, otherwise it's discrimination.
Yeah.
I am exempt. I'm exempt. And so they were asking, but why are you exempt? I don't have to tell you. I don't have to tell you. It's medical. I don't have to tell you. And so he just stood his ground. You know, he stayed there. He stayed there, and he insisted. He insisted until finally they were weary. You know, they were weary and said, "Wait, okay." They phoned the director of human resources or whatever to ask what they were supposed to do with that annoying guy. And finally, he got his way.
Yeah.
But he spent maybe, I don't know, maybe he spent 20 minutes.
Too much.
But who knows? Who knows? But he stayed there for as long as it took. And me, I don't think it is, okay, it is the right thing. It is absolutely the right thing for some people to do that, and they should do it. And I applaud them. I don't feel it is up to me to use that kind of strategy.
So that means that you wear mask in the shops?
It depends, but never on the nose.
No.
When I do, it's always under the nose.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do it if you don't feel comfortable with it. There is a fine line again where we are overstepping our own boundaries, and we simply learn to stand up for ourselves. But if you are not convinced of what you are doing and you feel really, really uncomfortable, you wouldn't be successful actually, because the others can feel that. You have to really be convinced, okay, I'm now going for it. And then you have to do it. Yeah.
I am. So, for example, in a tiger shop 1 or 2 weeks ago, we went into the shop to look at something. And then one of the cashier comes rushing after us and telling, you should have the mask on, you should have the mask on. And I said, no, we are exempt. And can you show me the card? And I said, you don't really have the right to ask me that. You look into the government papers. And then she backed off. She almost excused herself. She backed off.
That's a good thing in England, because in England people are really, really polite. And it would be easier in England to, if you're really pushed back, they will back off. Yeah.
If you want to do this, do it in England. That's for sure.
Because Belgium is a bit more aggressive, isn't it? In a way.
Yes. Yeah. It's well, people are very tame here, but not as much as in England, where it's really extreme.
Yeah.
But here, I've had a variety of experiences here. There are times where I have flatly refused to do it, and I've said why. And no, recently I've been confronted with a supermarket manager who was extremely insistent.
Mm.
In fact, I believe this was influenced by the person who had driven me there, because I was without a car for a short period of time, and a friend had driven me there, and I believe it was actually the influence of his energy that put me in that situation. If I had been on my own, I don't think it would have happened.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so finally, because I saw it was getting nowhere, and I didn't want to spend half an hour on the situation, I put a mask under my nose.
Mm.
Because I allow myself some level of flexibility.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, of course.
definitely, where I draw the line in the sand, and I won't change my attitude regarding that under any circumstance, is open air, the streets,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the public space,
Yeah.
the public space. No, no,
Same
no,
here.
no.
Same here. They really have to find me. If I'm waiting for a bus or a tram and they want to find me, I would go to the court too. And I'm normally not the type to do that. But there is no reason for that, and I'm sure they would lose. Yeah. So yeah, everybody has their own point where they put the line in the sand. And for me, that's it, because this is simply insanity. To not allow me to breathe in fresh air when there's nobody nearby. Yeah, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm waiting for my tram, and the next person is 5 meters away, or nobody is there at all. Yeah, if they want to find me, go ahead. Yeah, see you in the courtroom. Yeah.
Yeah, another shop we went in, and so we have it as a fixed rule. We simply don't wear mask. We don't wear mask on trains, no shops, nowhere. And usually now we have no problems with it. Really no problems. Because I think we also radiate that kind of assertiveness, at least here in England with this collective. So it kind of, the energy works by itself, and also the clear exemption notes from the government. If one just knows about it, that's the thing, one has to know about it.
Yes.
And even have it in paper. If one has it in the paper, if they are very assertive, then one just puts the paper in front of them and they have to give in.
Here in Germany, there had been doctors who did give exemption. And in the very beginning, there was already the mass media, the newspaper, they started a scandal that those doctors would do it to people they have never seen. And from this point on, I think it was impossible for people to get an exemption. As Marc has said, they receive pressure from their, I don't know, organization they are in. And so people don't get an exemption. I have seen, if someone dares to not wear one, there is actually, there's always over the loudspeaker in the tram, you always hear if someone enters without, there's always coming, yeah, you have to wear one. You are fined if you don't wear one. And every time everybody starts to look around if someone doesn't wear the muzzle properly under the nose, for example. And I have seen a woman, she was really self-assured, and really people yell at others. And that is, Germans can be quite a nasty piece of art if they believe they do the right thing. So that was the reason why I was really astonished that so many people do not obey. Yeah.
I'm just letting the cat out.
Yeah, do that.
So, yeah, what this is also revealing, the current situation, is how the whole system utterly corrupted is. because when we were speaking about the electoral circus uh, at the start of our conversation, um, what is happening now is showing us that opposition parties are useless. They're meaningless.
Yeah.
Trade unions are useless.
Yeah.
Professional associations are useless. So the whole system is proving to be entirely useless and in fact hostile to the people.
Yeah.
So when people wake up, what choice do they have but to step away from that system entirely and
That's right.
start relying on themselves and regroup and networking with one another to actually generate some leverage and some possibility to defend themselves. And speaking of defending themselves, in fact, defense is not the right attitude because the system is a bully.
Mm.
And what is scaring a bully more than anything else? It's when you push back. Bullies never expect that, and
Yeah.
they're always completely shocked when that happens.
Yeah.
And counterattack is what makes a bully totally freak out and
Yes.
makes a bully get stunned and paralyzed and completely perplexed and bewildered. And for people who want to use the legal system, that is actually what they should do. They don't have to play defense, they have to play offense and go after political political bigwigs and whatever and other and possibly professional associations or I don't know who, but they have to go after these people if they want to use the legal system.
The Queen of England, she has been sued, and the Canadian government too, and
Yes.
that would be really pushing back because, this is really a pushback. Yeah. I sue you because you are actually you're really harming your people, and you want the power. Okay, I'll hold you responsible for what you are doing, and that is a good idea. I think. Yeah.
So the English Queen did that?
No, she has been sued. I don't know who did it. She has been sued.
She's been sued in England for the rules that have been passed to do all kinds of horrible, stupid things.
Yeah.
She's being sued because it's her government. You know.
Exactly.
It's what she says. My government.
Yeah, it is.
My most loyal opposition. So, well, yeah, it's yours. So, well, you're getting sued.
You want the responsibility, now deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And that's, I think, also, I mean, of course, we are here in England, but that's what we are doing. We are not defending. We are actually pushing back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really
and
important.
also the experience we had on the planes.
Yeah, please share that.
Yeah, when I came back here, I was prepared to have the mask up to the nose, and I did in the very beginning. But then one of the hostess, the senior one, I think, she told me you have to have the mask over the nose, and I said, no way, no way in hell. Or I just used another not so harsh expression, and then she was just taken aback completely, and she asked why. And I said, and she was kind of surprised. And I just said, I have an exemption card from England. And at this point, she said, you have to show it. And of course, yes, I will do that. So, and she had already called the hostesses on the other side of the plane because I was sitting in the front. So, and they asked me to show it, and I did. And for the rest of the travel, I was the only one in the whole plane who didn't have a mask on.
Great, yeah. It's really great. And actually, the other people there, that's a good thing, psychologically seen, because the other people, they hate the one who has who has the exception from the rule, but over time, if it happens often enough, they think, if he doesn't have to do it, I don't want to do it either.
Exactly.
So, and the person sitting beside me, he was completely stiff with fear. And what he did was he moved to another place where there was nobody. And I mean, the Carrie's experience from Greece was even more extreme because he didn't want to have the mask on in the airport. And she was confronted by several people. Some, I think some of them, or one or two of them, were very, very aggressive. Very. And she just said, no, I have an exception card from English. I'm not putting it on. And then in the end, they were going to ask their superiors. And she was actually wondering if she was able to take the plane back because it was kind of lingering a bit. But in the end, she was kind of escorted. So she actually got the royal treatment. So she was escorted to the plane and she didn't have the mask on for the rest of the journey.
Oh, unbelievable.
That's unbelievable.
She's a really brave lady.
No,
And she's actually the one who have put me into contact with these papers, and that's also one of the reasons why I've become also more courageous, because I'm inspired by her.
yeah, I wish we had these papers a little bit everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a pity they're only a thing in England at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so fascinating that they escorted her, because I'm sure the idea was we don't want that lady to get in contact with anyone. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you can turn such a situation around. It's always the own story you tell yourself. So you say, oh yeah, I'm getting special treatment.
That's what she, in a way, that was her attitude. She thought it was great because she got the special treatment. And actually, but another side of it is, of course, that both of us gets very sad by seeing that like 97% of the people in the shops do have masks on,
Yeah.
and kind of are so subdued. But the fact that some are not, a few are not, is like a seed. It's like planting a seed.
Mm-hmm.
And when it becomes more absurd, the whole thing, it also becomes more transparent. The emperor, that emperor has no clothes, become more and more visible for people who didn't see it before. So then, of course, it is good when some people does that, even though it's has some kind of hardships associated with it sometimes.
Being that, yeah, innocent-hearted child who points at him and says, he's naked. Don't you see he's naked? Yeah. Being that, that's a beautiful role, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So, I want to use that. I want to use that little exchange as a way of introducing my next question that I would like to ask to the two of you. So I want to call upon your predictive abilities and ask you how you perceive that this situation is going to evolve in terms of, do you feel a real awakening coming, a real collective pushback coming at some point in the near future? And if that's the case, how do you perceive it might manifest itself?
Shall I start?
Yeah, please start.
Yeah, I see a kind of a split off, like the split off becomes more and more visible. So that there will be more and more people actually standing out, saying, no, we don't. And then the government being more and more panicky and more power hungry and want to kind of to stop that. And in the end, there will be some kind of collapse. Maybe there will in the end be the collapse of the technocratic order. It's just not yet. It's a kind of a little bit in the distance. How much? I have no idea. But it will maybe end like that, as a collapse of the technocratic order. Because people will get them also through the legal system, and through more and more people knowing common law, which I'm going to look more into because I don't really know so much about it. Which is actually very powerful laws. It's just one
Yes.
has to know about it.
Yes.
That they actually don't have no right for any of this.
No, Anglo-Saxon countries, people have really great tools in their hands if they realize it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So over to you, Natalie.
Okay. I'm going kind of in the same direction, but I believe that something big is going to happen in the upcoming month, because I believe the whole situation this year was just a beta testing. They just wanted to test the waters, so to speak, and they will bring out something maybe that even makes look the one who are challenging the system look stupid. Like now the second wave is coming, while it is in really something very different, and I believe that people are going to die, and they are preparing something big, and therefore people shall not lose hope, because it will feel like a huge backlash, but actually what they are really doing is there will be a huge awakening. I believe that too. Yeah, they will put more pressure onto the people big time, and we really will see people die, I believe, but then finally people are really waking up when they realize, yeah, actually, what am I feeling? There's not much I can lose, and they really realize, okay, it's not about having a safe life, it's about having a life worth living.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you completely, and I really see the same, but I was maybe looking a little bit further into the distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is your point of view, Mark?
Okay. I believe there are some steps. There are some steps to go through, because so as we can see, there is a lot that people are willing to accept. If there isn't an inner process of awakening that is kicking in, then there need to be outer circumstances that are going to precipitate a change in attitude. So one of the things that I believe are going to happen in the near future are people kissing goodbye to the system.
Yeah.
Because it is now really demonstrating its malevolence, its hostility, it's they're not hiding it anymore. You know, it goes to such an extreme that it cannot be hidden anymore. So it's getting more transparent. And so what I believe that's one of the things that are going to happen. It's that there are more and more people who are going to take a step back, and they won't use the system anymore at all. So they will create their own communities, because they cannot do it alone, of course. That's not something you can do alone. So they will create their own community.
Yeah.
And if smart cities become a thing, then my understanding is that these people will get out of cities altogether. Yeah. And live in small towns or completely in the countryside, and that's how it will work. So that will be part of the split that you were alluding to, Paul.
Yeah, that's true. And what I was thinking, yes, and the wild card here, in a way, but some people see it more than others, is the sun, the Father Sun, Mother Earth, and Mother Galaxy. Mm-hmm. Because all these energies coming in and transforming the reality makes the old reality collapse. Is actually is something that will happen, either if they want it or not. It
Yeah.
just is a consequence, is a organic consequence, even in the artificial or
Yeah.
the just something that will happen.
Mhm.
And they know about it. I think the matrix forces, they know about it, but they just try to harvest as much as they can.
Yeah. Well, obviously, if there wasn't a huge awakening process underway, why would there be a need to become so pushy,
Yeah.
so incredibly pushy? Things it could just stay business as usual. You know, okay,
That's
we keep our system running and it's working great, and we have all our slaves under our thumb.
yeah.
So why all of a sudden go hysterical about it?
Mm.
Yeah, they really try to prevent the huge awakening, and even with all the technology, they try to stop this awakening. And I had to learn this week that in my town, they have been rolling out the 5G while the lockdown.
Yeah.
And the end of last year, there was a gathering of people.
Mhm.
900 people were meeting with the officials and saying we are not having it 5G in this city, and the officials said yeah, so we will postpone the whole discussion until the end of 2020.
Yeah.
And now, just by coincidence, this week there was an article in the newspaper saying yeah, actually they have found out that 2/3 of the city is already connected with 5G, including my quarter. And that the people in the town hall have been said they are quite taken by surprise that this has been taking place. And the technology company said, yes, we have informed you via email what they say they have never received. Yeah, so, but actually now it's no longer a discussion. It is a fact. It's already taking place. As you said, people have to learn to connect with each other, and we really have to, like we are doing, connect with like-minded people, and go to the places you love, live where you enjoy life, and create the circumstances you want to have in your life. That's the only way to get along with that. Yeah.
And some other wild cards even is also the benevolent part of the Space Force.
Yeah.
And other technologies which apparently is going to stop that which makes it possible to succeed large scale.
Yes, because
So
there's
they are
no
just,
going back. Yeah.
yeah. So they just permit what is supposed to happen according to all the different karmic patterns and all that which is supposed to unfold because of the awakening itself, and because people have to get to know energies and how they work and how they people are inside and how the whole thing is.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a gradual thing for most people, for everybody.
Learning to cooperate and co-create, as yeah, technology in itself is not a bad thing, not at all. We are just using it, and I enjoy it. But we have to learn to use it in a way that is beneficial for us, and to interact with the beneficial TI. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is beneficial parts of the Space Force even that is counteracting some of the worst things because it's not meant to happen.
Yeah.
That's just the worst thing. So what we perceive is that a lot of bad things is going to happen, and even worse than now.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yes. Oh, one last word about that. Well, last that will that will depend on you, in fact. But one last thing I wanted to say about this is that there are many indications that in certain areas of the world, food shortages are coming that have been deliberately engineered. It's not, it's not an accident. It's been deliberately engineered, and that's part of increasing the pressure cooker, and also most probably introducing synthetic foods to make people completely dependent on authorities for their food supply. So we might have a few months of that, which will have varying degrees of severity according to the area of the world in which you are. But one solution to that, because there are multiple solutions, if you don't have the means to grow your own food because you don't have the space, you don't have the skills, there is one very easy thing to do, and it is to sprout grains. To have your sprouted grains, because they are incredibly nutritious, and you don't need space to do that. You just need a supply of grains and a sprouter, which you can find very easily online or in a health food shop. And that way you don't need to have a huge stash of canned foods or whatever, or your own little garden in your balcony or in your backyard. You just have your stash of varied multiple grains and your sprouter, and you will be fine. You know, if this situation lasts for 6 months, you will have nothing to fear. You will have enough nutrition to go through it.
Yeah, thank you for that, because this might be really the case. I know some astrologers have predicted that, and we have seen some signs where they try to interfere with the food supply, although there is no shortage. We really have to say that there is no shortage at all, but they try to play such a card for I believe, and in case they do so, people don't have to be afraid at all. It's there's no reason for that.
David Icke also talks a lot about these things. Even though it's a little bit too dark oriented. I mean, he doesn't go outside the dark usually. It's a little bit too much. Maybe that's why he's permitted to do it.
Another option that you have, but that's a little bit more adventurous, you can forage weeds. Weeds are also incredibly nutritious. So all you need to do is have an app. Because most people, they can't recognize the weeds. So you need to have, there are apps that you can download on your smartphone, and you can put your phone camera in front of the weed to see whether it is edible or not.
Wow.
And actually, I would advise that even now, because all of those wild plants, seen from an energetic standpoint, they give people resilience. You eat what your food is giving more than just nutrition. It is also giving you information. And I like to add some stuff into my green juices that I'm not using often enough, but I'm using them. And it is actually giving us an abundance and variety of information. As the wild plants growing outside, they make us resilient against all kinds of stuff. And so I would advise that too, because I have no idea what I can use or not, and such an app. I have a book where I have a look into, but an app is even more convenient.
And of course, just as you said, these weeds, they are the embodiment of resilience. They are so much more resilient than our domesticated vegetables. And it is you can, of course, interfere with agriculture, but how can you interfere with weeds? You cannot just do the weeds go away, otherwise it would have been done a long time ago. So
and one of the most nutritious ones is dandelion.
Yeah, and I've been told as a child they are poisonous. Never use them. And I was thinking, I don't know. I was told that by the older people, and I was wondering, maybe in World War II and after that, people have been starving here big time, and maybe they had stuff around they would have been able to eat, but they didn't dare to. because it must have been the case, because all of the old people told me, no, you can't eat the dandelions. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And they're really healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's really a lie. The only thing I don't use is the stem because it's extremely bitter.
Yeah.
But the flower, the leaves, and also the roots. I have bought online the roots, so I have that every third morning as in an infusion.
Wow.
Yeah, and burdock root, and I have spirit root, angelica, but I prefer the name spirit root. So I change between that, and we have some other herbs which we also drink in the morning as part of the infusion.
That's really beautiful. And,
Yeah.
and you can put a little bit onto, here's a bowl of salad or something like that. It doesn't have to be much, but just for the information and the true nutrition. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And if we learn it now, it is a good thing. We don't have to be in case of emergency, but in case we have it, we know what to do. Yeah. And that's the best. Don't wait for the safety of the government, because they have sold your ass long time ago. Make sure you are safe and you're being taken care of, because you are taking care of yourself and you connect with people who are supporting you.
Yeah. They are offering their own grandparents on a platter, so they have no conscience.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, if we are all in agreement, I think we can now wrap this up. And I hope you found this exchange stimulating and thought-provoking and feeling-provoking and also encouraging. And I hope we gave you some inspiration and ideas and useful information. So this is it for today's episode of Deep Divers. We say goodbye and we'll see you around.
Bye.
Goodbye. It was very good to take part.